We are about to start our assembly. Please, dear colleagues, take your seats. Thank you. Director General of the International Organization for Migration, Ambassador William Lacy Swing. High Commissioner for Human Rights, Mr. Zeid Ra'ad Al Hussein. High Commissioner for Refugees, Mr. Filippo Grandi. IPU Secretary General, Mr. Martin Shungon. Honorable speakers of parliaments, members of parliament, special guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is both an honor and a high responsibility for me to address this assembly here today for the first time in my capacity as IPU President. I cannot tell you how delighted I am to be presiding over an assembly that has chosen to debate the pressing topic of migration as the theme of a general debate. This is a topic that is very close to my heart, as you can imagine. As a Mexican, I have witnessed first-hand family tragedies and dramas unfold as people have to flee both from my country and neighboring Central American nations to reach the land of opportunity further north in pursuit of their dreams and a better life, if not for themselves, for their children. Dramas such as the Brian Soler, an Honduran child who left his country in 2014, carrying only a couple of hundred lempiras, around $9, he got by selling a rabbit he himself hunted in the rural outskirts of Tegucigalpa. After losing his only cash to some smugglers in Guatemala, Brian had to swim across the Suchiate River into Mexico at midnight in order to avoid being spotted by both local gangs and Guatemalan and Mexican immigration authorities. Later on, Brian hopped on board the infamous cargo train La Bestia, a traditional means of transportation for non-authorized migrants traveling to the U.S.-Mexico border. It is common knowledge among migrants that you board La Bestia alive. You disembarked a mummy. On board, Brian had to swatch unspeakable things that no human being should have to see during his lifetime. Pregnant mothers losing their babies after falling into the tracks. Girls of his age, maybe even friends or relatives, being sexually assaulted by groups of human traffickers that hunt a route all the times. Forceful recruitment by vicious drug cartels. In one word, ultra-violence. Yet, a broken childhood is still worth the risk, not only for Brian, but for thousands of Mexican and Central American children whose sole aspiration is to be able to financially assist their parents, left back in their countries, to some extent to have the chance of fleeing a generalized situation of violence. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to acknowledge the presence of the chief of the 3 UN agencies I singled out in my salutations, from IOM, OHA, the High Commissioner Office for Human Rights, and UNHCR. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedules to be today with us. We look forward to a fruitful interaction with you later this morning and the possibility learning from your valuable insights. Later today, we will also have the privilege of listening to the Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros, during an interactive session, and the Director General of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. 2018 is the year for migration and refugees, if ever there was one. This is the year when the two global compacts, one on migration and the other on refugees, will be adopted by the global community. As acknowledged by the UN, human rights-based approach to the governance of international migration is one of the most demanding tests of global cooperation in our time. With an estimated figure of almost 260 million international migrants worldwide, a 49% increase in comparison with the year 2000, our world is becoming a world of migrants. Even though most of these people migrates in order or in legal fashion, it is no secret that there are still millions of people which recur to migration out of necessity through forcible displacement. As of today, there is an estimated of 50 million, 20% of the international migrant population, people that are under irregular migratory status. It seems highly probable that we might reach or even surpass the historical peak of almost 1,500 recorded migrant deaths of 2016. Therefore, the advancements of international community in the building of an inclusive international framework of cooperation to curb these trends, it is of the utmost urgency. Fellow parliamentarians, more specifically, our general debate during this assembly will identify ways to strengthen the global regime for migrants and refugees through evidence-based policy solutions. As policymakers, we are duty-bound to devise laws and policy based on evidence, not on political party affiliation or political persuasion. The 22.5 million refugees around the world, and most comprehensively, the 65.6 million forcibly displaced people worldwide, are not only people in need of assistance, they are also agents of change both in their home and recipient countries. Hence, I urge you to enhance in fruitful discussions to take away concrete recommendations from the outcome document we will adopt at the end of the workshops that we have organized on refugee protection and state asylum system. You will no doubt have noticed a big tent pitched outside the reception area of this conference center. That is a real refugee tent that UNHCR helped us to bring here. And we did that because we would like you to feel, to think, to live kind of an experience of being maybe for a few seconds the experience of a refugee. I therefore invite you to make your way to the tent and to imagine just for a little while what it must be like for men, women, and children to live there for months, sometimes years, with little or no privacy. Please take a moment, go to the tent, try to get a seat, maybe try to rest for a minute, and try to imagine what might be to be a refugee. Here is located at this convention center in Geneva, but try to imagine that tent in the middle of very difficult climate conditions. Try to imagine the conditions that people might be facing in their own countries to choose better to live in a tent. We also have an exhibit. Samuel Turpin allowed IPU for free to have this exhibit on migration and climate change. Also, take an opportunity to see these pictures. These photos are really eloquent. I urge you to acknowledge that we have the power, as members of Parliament, to turn the tide. As a starting point, we should stop considering migration as a problem. Let us think of as both a challenge and an opportunity for all parts involved. Let us identify the drivers of migration, look back at historical trends and to see how we can manage this phenomenon in a more human and fair manner. Let us try and make the crossing safer, protect the most vulnerable of migrants, women and children, and let us try to make the enormous potential and pool of talent of migrants bring to us and put those to the benefit of our societies. We also need not only to take an important work during this assembly, we also need to consider to change the narratives, the speeches that many times are having in some countries. A lot of this depends on changing mentalities so that our constituents regard migrants as fellow human beings and not as foreigners coming to steal their jobs and life or welfare. An opinion sadly shared by the main political leaders of some great powers in the world, it is high time to debunk the myths and dispel all of the misconceptions surrounding migrants and refugees. Only then can we formulate sound and balanced national migration policies or adapt the ones we already have. Using populist slogans and policies, almost on the verge of xenophobic or hate speech, is a cheap trick used by some politicians to garner votes. Let allow ourselves to build bridges, never to build more walls between our countries. Let us be the place for dialogue. Let us parliaments to be the opportunity that millions of people are desperately seeking in order to save their lives. I appeal to your humanity to not give into such tactics. We all have a moral compass within us, and I call upon to you to follow yours. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you fruitful deliberation and concrete outcomes that we can take back home with us to our respective countries and leave behind as a tangible legacy. Make no mistake, we are in a very important moment for all humanity. The global compacts on migration and refugees are a great opportunity for change, for giving humanity a chance to remember that we all are brothers and sisters, to remind us that we can all be in the same situation. High Commissioners, Director General, this is a very important IPU assembly. We are reaching a very important assistance. You are going to have here 69 speakers, 149 countries represented with their delegations. We are also having here one of the most important attendance for an IPU assembly. Almost 1,500 people are here as parliamentarians, as staff, as organizations and NGOs. This is a very important moment for us. We know that you are making a huge effort to make these global compacts a reality, that you are making a huge and important work to make human rights a reality. Allow us as parliamentarians to be part of that important duty. We are responsible in our countries for ratification processes. We are also responsible of delivering national laws respecting and promoting human rights. We are responsible of having priorities well reflected into budgets and to ask our governments for accountabilities. Parliamentarians can be a very important hand for change. We are here committed with our minds, our hands, and our souls to make this world a better one. Let's change the world. It will start from our communities. Thank you very much. I will give the floor to our moderator and our wonderful guests here. Thank you very much for accepting this invitation.